The quest for the Holy Grail begins in Chicago. Lovingly ripped off from the film classic Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Spamalot has everything you need for a great night at the theater. That's night with a K. From flying cows to killer rabbits, British royalty to French taunters, dancing girls, rubbery shrubbery, and of course, the Lady of the Lake. Hot off a critically acclaimed Broadway revival in 2023, Monty Python's Spamalot, the Tony Award-winning Best Musical, comes to the CIBC Theater May 19th through the 31st. Don't miss it. Get your tickets today at BroadwayInChicago.com.
Today on CityCast Chicago, City Council has paused the sub-minimum wage hike. It sounds like Illinois is getting millions for lead pipe removal, but is it enough? And a change is coming to Del Sur Bakery in Ravenswood. Stick around to find out more. It's Friday, May 22nd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. We've made it to the end of another work week, my friends. I appreciate y'all making time for CityCast Chicago today. I hope you're subscribed to our daily newsletter. If not, get on that. We've got two amazing voices from the city in the building with us. From WBEZ's Curious City, Susie An is back with us. Susie, it's good to have you again.
Good to be here, Jacoby.
We've also got Madison Saavedra from Block Club Chicago. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Oh, thanks. It's always a blast. I
don't know if either of y'all are sitting by a window right now, but I am. And I'm looking out and, you know, a little gloomy, a little windy. I tried to get out on my bike earlier this week and I got my ass whooped. I got all the way to North Lawndale and I was like, I should have got some goggles and like maybe one of them face coverings, the dudes who be rolling on the like electric mono wheels or whatever the hell them things is called. But I mean, I look at the calendar. My farmer's market is back. Sueños is this weekend, really kicking off festival season. Like, are y'all feeling the summer vibes? The Memorial Day break is coming up. Like, are y'all feeling it, or is this feeling like one of the longest springs we've had in a bit?
I was feeling it with this little mini heat wave we had earlier this week. And I was especially feeling it because I don't have my window AC units in, which anyone in my life is probably so sick of me complaining about that. But so all I have to say, it's hot. I live on the third floor. It's hot. So it felt like summer. I got some new walking shoes to go on my hot girl summer walks. So I'm declaring it summer regardless of the weather.
Susie, what about you? Are you feeling summertime yet?
I really want to feel it. It was nice earlier this week. And then this morning I went for a run and I was just like, oh my God, so why? What happened?
A little gloomy. It's been one of the rainiest April and Mays that we've had in some time, which is good in some respects, right? You know, our area has been in a drought for a while, but yeah, I can lose some of this gray over the next couple of days. But I will say, I'm going to lean into the summertime. I'm finna go get them 9 a.m. tacos. I'm finna go out on a nice walk with some of the CityCast Chicago neighbors bright and early tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go kick it with my moms. We got some barbecue coming up soon. You know, we throwing something on the grill. So I'm gonna get into the spirit. We've got a couple of big stories to look back on this week. Madison, let's start here. I don't know what it was, maybe a month ago at this point, where City Council took a vote to pause the sub-minimum wage hike. This was a gradual hike that would take place over the course of a few years to bring the sub-minimum wage up to Chicago's minimum wage. They passed that, then the mayor vetoed it, but then this week they took it up again. What happened?
Yeah, so you've pretty accurately summarized a lot of this back and forth, which is not surprising. Even before the One Fair Wage Act or ordinance was passed, it was already a somewhat politically contentious issue. So I guess it really isn't surprising that however many years later, our older people are still, kind of debating it, fighting over it. So yeah, in March, the city council voted to freeze it. That was then vetoed. That was not the end of the debate. Earlier this spring, an alderman advanced a compromise ordinance. And so basically that's what passed city council yesterday. And it's a compromise in that it's just delaying a planned increase. When that ordinance was originally passed, it was going to increase wages gradually over a couple years. So what this compromise does is delay the increase that was supposed to happen next. And it delays it in like different ways for larger restaurants versus smaller restaurants. So for larger restaurants, it's pausing it for 2 years. And then for smaller restaurants, there will not be any increase for 4 years. However, in true compromise fashion, no one's really 100% happy with it.
100%. And the threshold for a big or a small restaurant in this case is 21 employees. Fewer than 21
Right.
employees, pause for 4 years, as you mentioned. More than that, the pause for 2 years. Madison, let's backtrack a little bit. How did we get here? Because this is pretty much the same city council in 2023 that passed this, like you say, amongst a lot of debate back and forth, a lot of restaurants against it. There were people, obviously, some restaurants and advocates in support of it. There were still a majority of them who wanted to pause it, however many weeks ago that was. And now near unanimous are willing to compromise on a pause. How did we get here where it seems the support for this thing in some form or fashion has kind of seemingly reversed in no more than 3 years?
I am speculating here. I do think the biggest factor in this is probably that our economic forecast just generally for businesses and restaurants hasn't really improved over the past several years when this ordinance was originally introduced. And again, I'm speculating, but it may have actually gotten worse. I don't know the actual raw data on that, but I think that was probably a big push to get people to a place where they're like, okay, let's take a beat, let's compromise, let's talk about this more. Because yeah, Jacoby, to your point, the arguments haven't necessarily changed. The supporters of eliminating the tipped minimum wage, their argument is the same. The restaurant industry and, hospitality industry that are against phasing out the tipped minimum wage their argument has remained the same, that it's going to be really expensive for people and that some workers actually make more on their tips than they would if they just made minimum wage. So those arguments, they still exist. People are still standing on that. Yeah. I think the appetite for a compromise and for talking about it more is the very real issue that nobody has as much money as they wish they did right now, billionaires notwithstanding.
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear that. You look at current gas prices, grocery prices, that's going to hit restaurants. And, that whole argument of some tip workers get more money from the tips. That's true to some extent, but it's sort of like it depends on your shift. It depends on what restaurant you work at. And it's almost like this plan would have been able to provide equity across the board. But, as a consumer, I do appreciate going to a restaurant that has a little note at the bottom saying that, our workers get a living wage. And that is why you're going to see higher prices on the menu. And I love that transparency. So if restaurants are going to do that, then I'm like, yeah, I will eat there and knowing I'm paying a higher price for a living wage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that extra charge is, I'm seeing that more and more at restaurants. I mean, I, as a consumer, would appreciate a price just being what it is. Just charge me up front.
Just put it in the carrots.
Yes.
Just put it in the broccolini, put it in the lamb chops.
Literally.
I have laid out my feeling on this. Point blank, anything that raises people's wages, I am for. Anything that makes people's wages even a bit more consistent, I am for. I had a long conversation with Eric Williams, the owner of Silver Room and Bronzeville Winery, and someone who advocated for pausing or eliminating this rise. And he tells me, in addition to the rising prices in running the operation, he says many of the restaurant owners he talks to don't have the money to raise every person's wage. And so those prices are being pushed off onto consumers. He wanted to remind me that by law, if the tips weren't covering people making the minimum wage, that, the payroll system and the way the law works is restaurants are covering that gap so that people are making that minimum wage. I pushed back in our conversation and I asked, are there other ways? Because it feels like we all agree prices are high. Restaurants have it hard. The majority of restaurants are probably struggling in every facet. Are there other ways simply than pausing people's wage increase? Because it feels like, once again, we're in this pit the worker versus the owner situation. And he said, well, there are, because there are other costs that could offset the amount that restaurants are paying for labor. And he says it is expensive to get certain permits to open and operate a restaurant. Mm-hmm. That outdoor patio licenses cost a lot of money, and the process is tough. That entertainment license to have live music or some other form of entertainment to generate revenue, those things are hard to pay for in the city. Starting restaurants, in his case, on the South Side, are difficult to do without more incentives. And I can be guilty of participating in making this sometimes a black and white conversation where it's like, I ain't here for the restaurant lobby and trying to take money out of people's pockets. But when I do talk to some individual restaurant owners, there doesn't seem like there's a desire to not pay people a livable wage if they can, to not give people increased wages. There is simply a concern that this change, outside of any other changes in the way restaurants are run, is going to impact the small business restaurants, the family-owned restaurants, a lot more than the fewer restaurant chains or restaurant groups that we have in the city. But again, I still wonder what's going to be different 2 years from now or 4 years from now.
Yeah, I think also worth noting is that in 2 years, and then I guess not necessarily in 4 years, but like there could be new people on city council. There could hypothetically be a different mayor with a different agenda. So I think it's interesting how far down the road they've kicked this can.
I agree with you. It does sound like this is potentially an opportunity to pause this into the point that a new city council and mayor have a difficult, or it is a disadvantage to go to bat for this.
Yeah, I think also, just to add to, Jacoby, your list of things that are expensive for restaurants, small businesses, especially, the ones that are locally owned. I mean, property taxes, if you own your restaurant building, rents going up if you're renting in a highly desirable, hot neighborhood. Those are a couple items that maybe the mayor and city council will have better addressed over the next 2 to 4 years. But I'm not super optimistic about that, given how long we've been talking about rising rents and rising property taxes. So we'll just have to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will continue to feel for people who, in this circumstance, planned for those increases. This is getting paused 6 weeks before the next increase was set to go. And again, when you think about this across shifts, across months, like this compounds for people. I have grown more empathetic the more restaurant owners, the more servers I talk to. I have students who are servers who literally just wrote persuasive speeches about why, tipped culture is not a great thing for them, that they don't like the environment it creates. They would rather just a stable wage they can count on. And then I know those who are in it as if, this is commissioned sales-based job, that how hard I work and how hard, how well I do my job, it will more likely be directly reflected in what I, get in these tips, and people enjoy that. And so I understand there's a lot of nuance here, but yeah, I'm a little hesitant that this has gotten paused into and in a way kind of put into, like committee jail. Like we may never see this pause end.
Yeah. Or we'll be having this exact same conversation in 2 years.
And with higher prices, who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. And now gas is $8 a gallon.
Yeah.
The weather is finally warming up, and maybe you like me and you dreaming about getting away, right? Maybe getting outside your comfort zone, taking a break, relaxing by some water, seeing something brand new. But what if I told you ain't gotta go quite as far as you think to accomplish all of that? That's because Illinois is literally in the middle of everything. We can get out in nature in breathtaking state parks and an epic national forest for hiking, biking, all around adventuring, or explore Illinois' small town charm, or visit some of the state historical sites like Lincoln's Crib, or maybe embark on the ideal road trip celebrating 100 years of Route 66 with giant attractions along the 300-mile route. Or maybe we just go ahead and kick back in Chicago. Finally take in the lakefront, the museums, the shows we promise ourselves we're gonna do all year and never get around to. However you're looking to get away, even if you staying home, find just what you're looking for and a little more at enjoyillinois.com. The Newberry Library is excited for their ongoing commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. They want you to stop by and visit their brand new exhibition, Free and Independent, which includes a July 1776 broadside copy of the Declaration and a handwritten manuscript of the Federalist No. 3. Then you can stop by the reading rooms to view Jefferson's annotated copy of the Federalist and Washington's Diary. On June 6, scholars Danielle Allen and Scott Stevenson will appear at the Newberry in an hour-long conversation to discuss Allen's brand new book, Our Declaration, a reading of the Declaration of Independence in defense of equality, and take a deep dive into the history, impact, and contemporary resonance of the document. As always, exhibitions and programs at the Newberry are free and open to all. Learn more at www.newberry.org. Speaking of a conversation we keep having every couple of years, the state of lead pipes across Chicago and broader Illinois. We've covered it on this show. Chicago has the most amount of toxic lead pipes than any other major city, any other city in the country. But Susie, it sounds like some money that was promised to the state is in fact going to flow, which, you know, we can't take for granted when federal funding is being threatened left and right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Earlier this week, my colleague Juan Pablo Ramirez Franco reported on how Illinois is receiving nearly $300 million in federal funding to replace those toxic lead pipes. You know, just to clarify as well that this was money that was originally allocated under the Biden administration. This was for the bipartisan infrastructure law under the Biden administration. But then earlier this year, investment was slashed from that fund when Republican lawmakers repurposed $125 million from that package for wildfire prevention. So Illinois is actually getting a little less, about $15 million less than it was originally planning to get. But that said, it is still a significant chunk to help Illinois' pretty big problem here with lead pipes. Yeah. And, you know, we have about 1.5 million lead pipes in the state, but more than 400,000 of them are in Chicago. So we're waiting to see how much of that money is going to Chicago specifically, but it's significant and it's needed. We still need more, but you know, it gets us somewhere.
You know, what is Chicago's current timeline? Like, are we picking up the pace on lead pipe removal? Are we making it easier for people, less expensive?
I feel like, well, I want to see what will happen after it's decided what sort of allocation Chicago will get for that. But it always seems like it's a constant conversation where we're always talking about a timeline, but the timeline actually doesn't. I don't know. It's just sort of like, I don't know. And, you know, residents have had the opportunity to request from the city like a testing kit that they can do at home. But I don't know. I think that kind of takes a little bit more know-how, or like if you aren't totally tuned in, that's not something that you're
Yeah.
necessarily going to know. There's not enough outreach to specifically go to those houses to tell those people, hey, you should test for this, or maybe even the city coming out and doing specific tests because they know where the lead service lines are. So I think there could definitely be more in terms of the outreach and doing some actual testing and informing residents that, their service lines do need to be replaced.
And starting next year, the city will need to replace 20,000 lead service lines annually just to keep pace with the EPA standards. And right now, we are far off that. The earliest it looks like we could hit those numbers is 2076. So people will be waiting decades in some cases, if longer than that, because while they have provided some money for people who can't afford, because this is a rather expensive process in Chicago, some like $20,000-$30,000 in some cases, it's not nearly enough money for people who have lived with these lines for decades now. And so it's good to hear that the money wasn't completely slashed, that it wasn't delayed as long as it was last year, because they didn't release those funds in 2025 until November. And so it sounds like Illinois is going to be getting them a little bit earlier as this administration tries to take credit and fold this money into their Make America Healthy Again. I'm trying to sound like Buddy, Make America Healthy Again.
I mean, they're trying to fold that in, but it's like, but you also are taking a little bit of that money away. When you think about it in the grand scheme of things, I think state officials estimated for the state overall to replace those lead service lines, it's somewhere between like $6 to $10 billion. So 300 million sounds great, but that is, it's a fraction of what we need to get it completely resolved.
Yeah, a drop in the bucket from a faucet hooked up to a lead pipe.
Susie, I'm curious if you know this, if like when the city is doing other projects, like in my neighborhood, there have been a couple like water main or like sewer main replacement projects. And I think at the same time, they've been giving people like the option to have their like lead service pipes replaced. Is that common, or are there like other kinds of construction projects that the city is doing that like if it's convenient for them at the same time to do like lead pipe removal, they're doing it?
Our producer, Emmy, right now says her parents' street is currently getting replaced. It's been torn up for months, and they're replacing the lines under there. You can't park, and they had to tear apart their basement. I know it definitely is a hassle when it has to be done, but on the other end, you are dealing with, toxic materials that are slowly but surely seeping into your family's water. And so,
there was a big one last year in my neighborhood, and I thought I kind of saw that kind of like looped in there. But like, hey, property owners, you can also have this done at the same time, because it's obviously a pretty disruptive project. So to have it all kind of done at once is, I think, probably helpful for some people. And, they're not paying for it. The city's paying for it.
Yeah, they do offer block long construction and allows private and public lead lines to be replaced for free when they update those.
And there's no safe level of lead in water.
No. And in many ways, the city should proactively step up, because the city is to blame for how long Chicago was installing these far after other cities had banned them. Chicago leaders should find the money. Lawmakers should continue to push for the money. But we can't, sort of fall on the sword of, the federal government won't give us more. Every episode of CityCast Chicago ends the exact same way, and that is with some good news. Madison, what's your good news for us today?
My good news is food related, as I feel like all of my good news when I'm on here is food related. But it's a very popular bakery on like the north side is actually expanding, which is a big deal. It's Del Sur in Ravenswood. And it's a big deal because this is a popular place. They've had lines out the door, especially on the weekends. I think it's died down a little bit since they first opened last year, but they're expanding to like their next door storefront to hopefully add seating and also make it so the line doesn't extend out the door on the sidewalk, potentially like disrupting other businesses. So they do have to temporarily close for that. So this is, I guess, good news with like a tinge of bad news. They do have to close June 14th in order to make these renovations happen. But then hopefully they said they'll be open end of the summer, maybe July. So hopefully this means that even more people will be able to try some of their baked goods, like their longanisa stuffed croissants, their danishes, their ube cream-filled cookie sandwiches.
Oh my
I've
God.
tried a couple of things from here. I don't even remember what they were called. That's how like mind blown I was just at how delicious they were.
Oh, it sounds so good.
I'm very happy for these guys. I feel like bakeries are really having their moment right now. I've like eaten more baked goods over the past 2 years than I feel like I had in like the previous 10 years. So I'm here for it.
I've been wanting to get over to Delster for a long time. And every time I like, just the off chance that I get to be in the neighborhood and drive by, always a long line. I'm like, I can't stand in this line. I just can't. So this is good news for me too. I can't wait for them to get a bigger space so that, I'll wait in the line, but not too long.
Yeah. And I should say,
100%.
I personally didn't wait in the line. My friends waited in the line and then I met up with them afterwards. So
Pro tip. That's the way to do it.
That is the pro tip.
Hey, anytime there's a little bit of expansion, that makes me happy because it sounds like things are going well. And as we've covered, that's not always the case. And so good for them. And I hope this momentum continues well into the future for the entire team over there. But yeah, I got to pull up before they shut down for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So you have until June 14th.
Cool. It's on my calendar. Oh my God, that is really not that far. Oh,
I feel like that's less than a month now that I'm thinking about it.
Susie, over to you. What is your good news for us?
Well, my good news has to do with WBEZ's sister station, Vocalo. It was announced this week that we're launching the Vocalo hotline. Vocalo is kind of like making a resurgence. And I mean, this is just, it warms my heart. I'm so glad that this is happening. I'm so excited for host Nuria Hernandez to, she's hosting the show and she's really curated just some great listening and music. And this comes after a couple of years ago at Chicago Public Media, much of the podcast unit was laid off. Much of the Vocalo staff was laid off. And the station in general, Vocalo in general, was nearly completely shut down. And there was still like a tiny little light, tiny little light. And over the past couple of years, it's just slowly growing and growing. And now we'll get the Vocalo Hotline show, which will be a new weekly radio show. You'll hear it, of course, on Vocalo at 91.1, but you'll also be able to hear it on BEZ at 91.5. And it's really supposed to be interactive, so folks can, it's called the Vocalo Hotline, so folks can call in, interact, make requests, tell their story. So I'm really happy about this and really excited for the whole Vocalo team.
Yay, that is such good news. So
It
happy
really
for everybody.
is. That's so exciting. We are going to definitely drop links in our show notes so people can get tapped in. And please call. Please call, y'all. I am going to round us out. My good news is coming out of Archer Heights, and I want to give a shout out to their branch of the Chicago Public Library, which is kicking off the Southwest Side Zine Library. This is launching this Saturday from 2 to 4 o'clock. People can come in, read some of the locally created zines. They can create their own, participate in a workshop. They're going to have snacks there. I am currently up to almost 60 libraries across the city that I visited, and there was only one really robust zine library, and it was at the Daily Branch in Bridgeport. And it is really nice. The shelves are full. There are resources for you. I brought home Making a Mini Zine from Andrea Pearson, and it's like a little guidebook for how to make one.
I
And
love
it's
that.
so cool.
Oh my God, I love that.
And so the idea that another branch is going to have one of these makes me really happy. And so shout out to the Archer Heights branch of the Chicago Public Library. I'm going to be pulling up on y'all very, very soon so I can check it out in person. That is a wrap on our good news today. I want to give a huge thank you to our guest from Block Club Chicago, Madison Saavedra. Thank you for making time for us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And from WBEZ's Curious City, Susie An, always a pleasure.
Thank you. Love being on here.
Before we get out of here, I want to give a huge thank you to every single person who makes CityCast Chicago possible. Our executive producer is Simone Alisea. Our creative producers are Michelle Navarro and Emmy Mack. Our audience development manager is Chima Okoro. Host production by PJ Shahamet. Roving producer this week, Elizabeth Kama. Our music is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. As always, I appreciate y'all for listening. Again, I'm excited to see all the CityCast Chicago neighbors who signed up out on the tour tomorrow morning. If you are trying to get access to Neighbors Only event, ad-free listening, please sign up now at membership.citycast.fm. I know we got a lot of subscriptions going on, but come on, y'all, $10 a month. Come on, help us out. We got another special event coming up in June you do not want to miss out on. We're going to be back bright and early on Tuesday. Enjoy your extended weekend if you get one. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.